Alright, so we've talked about the basic principles of responsive web design. We talked about some of the tools we can use and some of the strategies and also what is required to have a real responsive website. Now we're actually going to do some coding. I've created this project called ResProject, which is basically a responsive web template, or it could even be a small framework. Framework meaning that you can use it in multiple projects, obviously changing some things around, images, colors, and etc. And I also have this window width label up here, which will show us the width of the window. You can see if I go ahead and resize this, that changes. Now, this template is fairly simple. We have a header area with a logo. We have a navigation which is spanned across horizontally, and we have a main column which has, I guess these would be blog posts, and each post has a background, a white background, and then we have a sidebar which each block has a white background, and these all have rounded corners using CSS3, and then we have a footer. So pretty simple. And let me just minimize it a little bit. So when we get to around 768, I'm sorry, 960, whenever we get around 960, it changes. You can see now the logo is centered and it's larger, and we don't have a sidebar on the right. We have it down here. Our blocks are down here, so you can see how nicely it's changed into a different layout. And let's see, if we go back, you can see the smooth animation transition. That's because I've used some CSS3 transitions. I used it in the logo. You can see how it smoothly gets bigger, and you can see the main column is kind of animated when it shrinks and gets bigger, and then the sidebar pops in there. So that's not required, but I just like to, I think it looks a little neater when you're resizing the browser. Transition, it doesn't really mean anything if you're using a mobile device because you can't resize it, but just for when you're viewing it on a desktop and you resize the window, it just makes it run a little smoother. Alright, so let's keep going, and you can see this is a fluid layout. Alright, so we don't have any fixed widths. It's all percentages, so it resizes with the window even without hitting breakpoints. Alright, so we hit another breakpoint. It's around 750, and this would be a tablet layout, and you can see the biggest difference is the navigation. It's now vertical, and we still have our main content areas and then our sidebars underneath. And you can see the transition. We have a width transition when we go smaller, and when we go larger we have a height transition. It comes down from the top. Alright. Okay, so if we keep going. Okay, so this would be maybe a small tablet. The logo is bigger and centered. And you can also see the smaller we get, the smaller the padding on the side gets. And it does that because we want to use as much real estate as we can with the given small screen. So let's keep going down. And now we're getting to the larger smartphones, the Droid Razr, Galaxy, devices like that. And the iPhone's a little smaller. I think it's somewhere around here. So you can see it's the same. It's going to look the same whether you're using a Samsung Galaxy or an iPhone 5. We have the fluid layout, so it's always going to be proportioned correctly. So everything's stacked on top of each other. And we can go all the way down to 240 or 244, which is the smallest we can make the browser. And you can see it's still in good proportions. It's really narrow, obviously, but it's still readable. So this is what we'll be building, and each section that's left in this part of the series, it's modular. So we're going to be doing HTML structure in the next section, and then we'll make the layout fluid, and then we'll do media queries. So it'll be separate, but we'll still be working on the same project. And once we finish this project, we'll move to the next part, which is the Twitter Bootstrap part. So let's get coding.